The Fyter Fest card has been taking shape. We also have a lot of hints on where things are going in the future. We also have a announcement for another TNT title match, this one at Fyter Fest, and Orange Cassidy gets juiced. What's up, everybody? Thanks for joining me on That's Wrestling. My name is Eric LaRoche, and with me tonight, I have Dustin West. How's it going, Dustin?
It's going great. I am here in South Central Pennsylvania talking to you on my new setup and not on a Nokia flip phone. So I am here. Hopefully you hear me very well. And I'm just really excited, man. I'm ready to talk some Dynamite.
Before we get into the show, be sure to head over to the YouTube channel if you're listening to this as a podcast, because I have been doing news updates pretty much it's going to work out to probably 4 or 5 times a week at this point. I did a quick rundown of AEW Dynamite this morning, so head over there and check those out. We also do this show live over on YouTube, so you can join us in the chat and ask questions and all that fun stuff. Also, if you're interested in being a co-host for New Japan stuff, shoot me an email, eric@thatswrestling.com, and I'm sure there's a bunch of other things. Oh, head over to iTunes, leave us a review. We actually have 3 5-star reviews over there, but only one person wrote anything. So, write something. If you have any mailbag questions, shoot them to eric@thatswrestling.com. Also, there's a Discord that has all my projects, but there's a wrestling channel in there as well. It's pretty active. So, yeah, let's move on to the show. The show this week opened up. We had all of the normal commentary, and actually Jericho joined the panel. So it ended up being a 4-person booth, which actually I think worked out all right. I think Jericho pretty much drove the ship, and everybody else just kind of filed in behind him whenever they needed it. Also, Justin Roberts has come back, so Dasha was not doing ring announcing. She has probably gone back to the Spanish announce desk since that's her normal position. And we start off the evening with FTR making their in-ring debut against Butcher and Blade, and this was a very solid match. It was a lot of back and forth, really a no-nonsense match. This is probably one of the best Butcher and Blade matches I've seen since they have been in AEW. Really, there's no major spots that stand out. There's a lot of brawling, a lot of various joint manipulation, and near the end, FTR ends up hitting a suplex and then a frog splash on Blade, and then they hit what used to be called Shatter Machine. They are now calling the Goodnight Express. They hit that on the Butcher to take him out of the picture, and then the assisted pile driver they are calling Mind Breaker. They hit that on Blade and picked up the pin. What did you think about the match itself? I thought this was basically it was a solid, no-nonsense wrestling match, a good back and forth, hard hitting, and no frills, but it completely got the job done, and I thought it was a really good match.
Yeah, this was definitely the best match that Butcher and the Blade have put on, in my opinion. This opened the show, and this opened, it's big. It's FTR's opening. The match, I'll keep it just about the match. The match was just like you said, it was just a good old-fashioned tag team. 2 of the powerhouse tag teams in AEW, just fists up. Wheeler, I'm always going to point this out because as someone in the professional wrestling business and a training professional wrestler, I can't do one. And Wheeler is a much bigger dude than I am and did a great looking dropkick. He also caught I forgot who it was, but he caught someone in a leapfrog and just delivered a power slam. The match was really great. Both teams looked really good. I think it also gave Butcher and Blade not necessarily an edge because they always had one, but they looked really, really good in this match, and FTR doesn't look like they missed a step either.
Yeah, so this is really good. After the match, Tony heads down to the ring and he's interviewing FTR, and Dax says that this is the pinnacle of wrestling and the pinnacle of tag team wrestling. Now that you have the best, and then he gets cut off there and the Young Bucks come out, and Nick says, we don't want to be rude or anything. We just wanted to come down and congratulate you guys. Matt grabs the mic and says that they came out to say thank you for helping them out of a jam a couple weeks ago. And while they appreciate the sentiment, they failed to properly introduce themselves. So Matt says, I am Matt Jackson, and this is my brother Nick, and we have been carrying tag team wrestling on our backs for 15 years. Matt and Nick then offer a handshake, but Butcher comes in and hits the Bucks from behind, and then it all goes crazy, ends up into a massive brawl. Kip Sabian and Jimmy Havoc even run out and join the fight, and then Kenny Omega and Hangman Page come in as well. Once it all settles down, you have the elite of Hangman, Omega, and the Bucks, along with FTR in the ring. They're just kind of trash talking each other a little bit, but everything's kind of settled down and they go their separate ways. So there was no fighting between FTR and any of the elite. It was all Butcher, Blade, Kip Sabian, and Jimmy Havoc that they were all kind of fighting off as kind of a 6-on-4 scenario here. And this seems to be setting up some sort of three-way between all three of these teams, and I am very curious how it's going to go.
I wasn't expecting that. When the Bucks hit, I remember that, oh, okay, cool. The Bucks are here. They did a proper intro, but I didn't expect Kip, Havoc, Omega, Page, the Bucks. I mean, FTR. I mean, also, can we talk about how awesome Hangman Adam Page's shirt was? I don't. Maybe I'm the only one that really just saw that. Like, damn, that is really dope.
What he just had a flannel button-up collared shirt, right?
Maybe it's the belt buckle. I don't know. I thought it looked cool, but I wasn't expecting all these different tag teams to come out. And especially with Kip and Havoc in the recent weeks, Butcher and the Blade looked great in this. KO, Page coming out, the tag team champs, the Bucks, FTR. There was a lot of personality, a lot of really, really good tag teams in this. So I am very interested if perhaps I just want to know what the plan is for it. So it seems like everyone jumped in with the intention of doing something with. So I guess we will find out in a matter of weeks.
I'm hoping they drag this out longer and the FTR doesn't face either Hangman Page or Kenny Omega or the Bucks, and they're going to have to run through some other teams before we even get in that realm. But it seems like they're sowing some seeds already, whether that's going to be quick or it's going to be a slow burn. I guess that is what we will find out soon. All right, so we had a quick segment backstage. This continues on the Allie storyline that has been running from Dark that I've been covering in my daily Newswire episodes. So if you don't watch Dark, go head over and watch those. But basically, the Natural Nightmares are backstage. Brandy notices that Allie has a nice brand new Nightmare Family jacket with her name on it. Brandy is really pissed about that. Dustin says, do you know what's at stake here? Get your head into the game, because they have a tag title match next week because they're number one contenders. This right here, he pointing at Allie, get it out of your system because next week she won't be at ringside with us. And then when they cut back to commentary, they're kind of talking about Allie a little bit, and Tony says, I don't buy all this with Allie. I don't trust her. So this storyline continues on, and this has carried over from Dark, and I have to agree with Tony on this one. I am pretty sure she is still working for Butcher and Blade.
Yeah. Well, what else can you say? I don't trust that woman, not one bit. So QT Marshall, watch your butt.
Yep. All right, next up we had Penelope Ford and Nyla Rose team up against Kris, Statlander, and Hikaru Shida. So a very similar lineup as a couple weeks ago when Britt Baker was injured, this time swapping out Britt for Penelope. And right away, this was a brawl right at the bell. Statlander uses Nyla as a weapon and basically throws her into Ford, and Nyla ends up basically giving a spear to Ford. there's a lot of quick tags between Statlander and Shida working over Nyla in the corner. Nyla moves out of the way of a Statlander crossbody off the top, and that's when it kind of turns around a bit. She completely decks Statlander with a massive clothesline and turns her inside out. Later on, the ref gets pulled by Ford, and Nyla is just stomping on Statlander while she's on the apron after a tag. Statlander gets worked over throughout the commercial break, and then after we come back, Statlander hits a huge bicycle kick and gets a tag over to Shida, and Ford also gets tagged in as well. So we're dealing with Shida and Ford here. Hikaru Shida hits a running knee while Ford is draped off of the apron, and then hits a running knee to the back of Ford's head, and then Statlander hits a standing moonsault. They get a 2 count there. Later on, Shida hits a suplex on Nyla, and then Statlander hits an axe kick on her for another 2 count, and then Nyla does her knee drop off the top rope with Statlander and Shida hanging on the top rope, which I think is the dumbest thing in the world because they're just sitting there like idiots waiting for it to happen. I hate this move so much. Kip Sabian actually grabs Shida's leg here, and the ref turns his back to deal with that situation, and Nyla Rose throws the women's championship belt to Ford, and she hits Shida with it, and then pins Shida after a fisherman's suplex. So I think this is the first match that has ended with a belt shot and then a move. I think this is the first time I've seen this in AEW.
I'm pretty sure you're right. I'm pretty sure it is.
I can't even remember. There's probably a couple belt shots that have happened, but this is the first one that has led into the finish, and also the champ was pinned by Ford here. And I think what's going to happen is they are setting up Penelope Ford to go against Shida at Fyter Fest, and I think what's going to happen is Hikaru Shida is going to ask for the match because of what happened here, getting hit with the belt, and that's how the match ended instead of clean. So I think she wants retribution. She's going to actually ask for the match with Ford instead of Ford just being given it.
Yeah, I really like this finish. I think instead of doing the same old song and dance where you could easily have Nyla Rose challenge for a rematch for her women's championship, I like the finish. I like how it sets up Penelope Ford. I wasn't expecting it. This was a very physical women's tag team match, by the way. There were a lot of big moves. Statlander's, she showed off her strength again. Hikaru Shida showed off her strength. I really liked this match. I wasn't expecting the belt. I got really excited for it. This is a great way to, again, you have a women's tag team championship match, and one of the things I weren't expecting when you put 4 women in the ring together, especially in a tag team, I would not be expecting Hikaru Shida versus Penelope Ford at Fyter Fest for the AEW Women's Championship, but they found a way to deliver on that, and I didn't see it coming. This was a really good match. Yeah,
I thought it was really solid. I didn't see any massive problems. We tend to usually see a couple here or there, but yeah, no massive problems today, and it worked out quite well, and I did not mind this finish. I usually hate schmoz finishes, but if they've only done it once and it's been a year, once in a year, I can live with a finish like this, so good on them. Next up, we had a short video package of Darby Allin, and he's talking to the camera. He says he's not cleared to wrestle, and then it cuts over, and he's with Tony Hawk, and Tony Hawk is, well, you don't need a doctor's note to skate here, so you're cleared, so have fun. And they show Darby trying to do a drop-in off of a ladder and crashing and burning many times, and he finally lands it. So this is a bit of a callback to the casino ladder match where he tried to do a drop-in off of a ladder onto somebody and he crashed and burned. So a little, what do you want to call it?
Filler?
No.
Retribution?
The other... not redemption? Retribution. There you go. Redemption. A little redemption for Darby Allin here. But really, other than that, there's not much to say about this particular video. Next. Next up, there was a hilarious, once again, Britt Baker video. She says that her existence makes her a role model and that she's exhausted of Big Swole's attitude and we always have to hear about her struggles. And Britt says, let's talk about struggles. I probably have had more struggles than anybody here. I've been facing unexpected challenges my whole life. An unexpected biology exam that I didn't study for and aced it. I have a very prominent image to uphold here in AEW. They need a role model. The roster needs a role model. The fans need a role model. And I'm happy to do it, but I just want the respect as well. And during this whole thing, they're cutting videos of like completely hypocritical things that she's doing, and then has some of the training videos where Rebel is actually holding the weight behind her. She's not dragging it on the ground anymore with her wheelchair. She's actually Rebel is holding the weight and walking it behind her, and it was just really funny.
Yeah, I don't really think I can really say anything too much about this except for the fact that it was a Britt Baker video. It was used as a little bit of a filler. It was funny. I mean, that's all I can really say about it. It was great. I loved it a lot.
Next up, we have Best Friends and Orange Cassidy versus Santana, Ortiz, and Jake Hager. The Inner Circle attack before the bell. Jake Hager throws Orange Cassidy up on the stage, gives him a few extra punches for good measure to kind of take him out of the beginning of the match here. We're shown a video of QT and Allie flirting at ringside. And then the match is really back and forth here, and all of the Inner Circle end up getting taken out at one point by Trent and Chucky with dives. Santana eats a huge spear from Trent when Chucky T gave Santana a little helping hand with an Irish whip towards Trent. The Inner Circle eventually gain control. They beat on Chucky T during a commercial break, but Chucky T actually gets a tag to Trent, but the Inner Circle are completely unfazed by that, and they continue to beat down on Trent this time. For the rest of the break, that's what ends up going on, and then Ortiz grabs Orange Cassidy's glasses while he's standing on the outside and throws them into the crowd. That's not something you want to do to Orange Cassidy. Orange Cassidy gets tagged in against Jake Hager. He hits a double Hurricane Rana on Ortiz and Santana, hits a dive on Hager to the outside, hits this massive tornado DDT on Santana. Hager catches Orange Cassidy coming off the top rope, turns it into a power slam. Trent and Chucky T break up the pin. The Inner Circle take them to the outside, so Orange Cassidy is alone in the ring. Ortiz hits this massive running cannonball with the assistance of Santana, and Chucky pushes Ortiz? Yeah, it pushes Ortiz off the top rope when they were trying to go for a street sweeper, and Orange Cassidy ends up getting a crucifix pin on Santana and gets the win. Jericho at this point is completely pissed off, and he runs down to the ring with a bat, and the Inner Circle pretty much beat down on everybody. He hits Orange Cassidy with the bat, and he comes up bleeding. And then Jericho goes under the ring and grabs a bag of oranges, and he starts hitting Orange Cassidy a bunch of times with the oranges, and he's left bloody and covered in orange juice in the ring. I thought this was one heck of a way to set up Orange Cassidy and Jericho in the future. And what we do later find out is that Best Friends have asked to face Jericho and Sammy Guevara, Les Sex Gods, next week, and they are putting their title shot at Fyter Fest on the line in order to get that match.
Yeah, this match has a lot happening. The outcome is well. First off, I'm surprised you didn't bring up the Chris Jericho line, which was the blood Orange Cassidy has just been juiced.
Yeah. See, okay. So here are a few things. Tony multiple times said that they are blood oranges. Those are definitely not blood oranges. Because if you've ever had a blood orange, the inside of a blood orange is like deep purple. hence why they call it a blood orange, and those are just regular oranges. It would have stained the entire everything. Those are definitely not blood oranges.
But yeah, I know, but that line, it reminded me of anything Arnold Schwarzenegger says, because he's the king of one-liners, but the blood orange Cassidy has just been juiced.
Yeah,
I loved it. I like the I like the best friends putting their number one contendership or whatever on the line against Santana or the sex gods. I just again, this is one of the perfect examples of a finish that I wasn't really expecting, especially the Orange Cassidy gets the pin, but then Jericho just comes out and Orange Cassidy's was he bleeding from the ears?
No, what actually I think he bladed himself right in the hairline, but his head was slumped over, so it went across his face to his ear, so it looked like it was coming out of his ear. And then when he rolled over, his ear was topside up, so it looked like the blood was coming out of his ear. That's what ended up happening.
Okay, yeah, it definitely looked like, I'm like, that can't be. No. Is it? No, that's not right. But there was a lot of implications in this match. There were a lot of things happening. There are a lot of possible outcomes. And one of the things that AEW, again, in this match does very well is it leaves you guessing, wondering, well, are best friends going to keep their contendership? Is it going to be Jericho versus Orange Cassidy at Fyter Fest? Is it going to be best friends going to lose their number one contendership? Or Santana or Ortiz of the inner circle on the way back up top? You don't really know. And from something that was simplistic as a 6-man tag match, it left me with a lot of questions, and I mean that in the absolute best way possible. The match was really great. Cassidy can go, best friends can go, Hager, or, I mean, it was the inner circle versus best friends with Orange Cassidy. It met my expectations. It was a good match. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think it was everything it needed to be, and Orange Cassidy actually picking up the win over Santana here with the crucifix pin was definitely out. I thought it was a really good quick finish, and of course that is something that is going to then really piss off Jericho and kind of trigger this whole thing to happen.
Yeah, and I thought it was executed perfectly. It was really good.
All right, next up we have Tony Schiavone is at ringside. He's interviewing Billy, no longer called him Gunn. Did you notice that? I
did. I was like, oh, that's actually kind of weird for me to hear, but okay.
Yeah, I'm guessing the WWE lawyers got involved in that one, even though Billy Gunn has been using Billy Gunn outside of WWE for years. He's used in New Japan, and I think, did he ever go to ROH? I think he went to ROH. But he's been using that name definitely in New Japan, I've seen. But anyways, they're now just calling him Billy. Anyways, Tony ends up getting interrupted by MJF, and he tells Tony to be a good little mic stand and shut your mouth. He says that he's been undefeated for a year, has the Dynamite Diamond ring. He's been ranked number 1 for the past 3 weeks, and Jungle Jabroni Jack Perry got a title match before him. He says, you think people that make sense? No, it doesn't make sense. The favoritism in this company is egregious. There's a reason why when I walk around in the back in my locker room, I'm met with nothing but dirty looks. It's because all the boys know no matter how good they get in the ring, no matter how much they improve on the microphone, no matter how over they get on Twitter to the Marqs, and my dog is yipping because she's falling asleep. All right. No matter how over they get on Twitter with the Marqs, eventually in this company you hit a ceiling and you're looking at that ceiling. I'm a great white shark swimming in a sea of minnows. And then Billy cuts in and says, if I can stop you right there, Minnow, you're looking at a great white shark. And MJF says, he's surprised he isn't trying to get one of his talentless another one of his scumbag sons a job here. Billy grabs MJF by the shirt, and MJF starts calling out to Wardlow to help him out. They split apart, and Wardlow and Billy Gunn have a bit of a stare down, and that is the end of the segment. But then this will set up. We do find out it's going to be Billy versus MJF next week.
The promo was great. Of course it was. Again, if I would not be expecting an MJF versus Billy match, I never once expected an MJF versus Billy match. If you think it's Wardlow's not going to get involved, or maybe Billy's son gets, I don't know. This to me, by the way, I'm all for this. It threw me for a left curve. I don't know whether it's maybe just because I'm just used to seeing Billy sitting there ringside every week or this, that, but to see it pop in, I guess it's going to be a way for MJF to go over maybe, or enhance his heel character, or what. Again, I don't know, but a Dynamite match with MJF and Billy, I'm interested. I'm very interested in that.
Yeah, I think there's going to be fireworks in this one, having Austin at ringside and Wardlow at ringside, and Billy being so much bigger than MJF. Every time I see Billy Gunn with somebody, it's like, oh man, that guy is huge. Because all these other people look big, but you never realize how big that Billy Gunn is. So he probably has at least 6-7 inches on MJF.
Yeah, isn't Billy Gunn like 6'7"?
He's like 6'6", yeah.
Yeah, he's I forget that a lot, because especially when in his time with WWE, you see him with a lot of other big guys. But when you actually see him when he stands outside of the ring on ringside, like his middle head reaches the top of his head reaches the middle rope. So like he's very, very big.
All right, so next up we have a quick recap going into this next match. Basically recapping the Dark Order trying to recruit Colt Cabana after he got eliminated from the Battle Royale a couple weeks ago, and then Brodie talking to him after Jericho's loss last week. And then we go into this next match, which is Sammy Guevara versus Colt Cabana. Sammy comes out on his scooter. I have to say, I love the little air freshener tree hanging from it, which was a nice little touch. When Colt comes out, he ends up pushing the scooter off the stage, and Sammy's like, oh my god, and he goes to the ref basically, like, are you going to allow him to do that to my scooter? Makes a big deal out of it. It was pretty funny. Early on in the match, Colt takes control, but Sammy ends up pulling Colt out of the ring and hits this massive dive to take control through a commercial break. Pretty much back and forth throughout the commercial break. Colt ends up hitting a flying apple and then a moonsault for a 2 count. And then it all comes down to the end here, where Colt is looking to go for the Chicago skyline, but he ends up slipping on the second rope and falling back down to the mat, and Sammy gets him up into the torture rack and hits the GTH and picks up the win there. I don't think I have seen Sammy actually hit that since AEW started. Uh-oh.
Oh.
Is it me or you? Okay, start over. Okay, is it my connection that's gone to crap?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, yes.
Okay, all right. No, so the match was really great. But of course we're going to talk about what happens after.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so after the match, Dark Order comes out, all of them, including Uno, who looks a little skinnier than he used to. And then Brodie Lee comes out. He walks over to the ring, helps Colt to his feet, and then the Dark Order just all walk off down the tunnel. And then Colt is looking completely confused. He starts walking up to the stage where they have the 2 entrance tunnels. He looks over at the one that he came out of. He looks over at the one that the Dark Order went down, and he follows the Dark Order down their tunnel. Then Sammy grabs the microphone because the Dark Order's music was actually playing at this point, and he says, "No, hit my music." He says he's the greatest wrestler in AEW, and then Matt Hardy comes out to interrupt him and says he's out there. He has no problem with Sammy. He respects Sammy, and says that he sees a young Matt Hardy in him, and says that Sammy is the future of AEW. Regardless how hard somebody hits you, you get back up, and I respect that. I'm going to give you some advice, though. To reach your full potential, you need to get away from Chris Jericho. Sammy says, "You want me to trust you? You tried to kill me not once, but twice, and that's a fact." And Matt starts like shaking and making some noises, and then suddenly he's Matt version 1 with a matter of fact on the screen. And he says that Matt is an excellent driver, and Matt enjoys watching Sammy sprint. And Sammy, if you had the mattributes, you could. And then Sammy cuts him off. He butts in to tell him to shut up, and then Matt again kind of starts shaking and making some noise, and then suddenly he starts speaking in the broken Matt accent and says that I must step into this ring because these events must be documented. And then he says, I'm going to mash you into a mofongo and eat you, delete. And Sammy makes his way out like, what the heck? This guy is freaking nuts. And that was the end of the segment.
Again, you want to talk about a lot happening, a lot going on. The Colt Cabana, so last week he lost to Chris Jericho in a match. This week he loses to Sammy Guevara. And I really liked the presence of the Dark Order. And I really liked their presence this week. They all came out one by one. They all stood there. And Brodie Lee comes out, gives him that helping hand, and when he walks in the back, because we had this discussion, I believe, last week or the week before, of if we wanted to see Colt Cabana join the Dark Order. I, of course, said yes, because I wanted to see what a heel Colt Cabana would look like. You said you weren't quite ready for it, but you were also interested to see what a heel Cabana would look like. When he left that ring, I got excited. I was like, yes! I was all fired up. Then Matt Hardy comes out. And last week, Matt Hardy kind of gave the same props. I mean, granted, it was after Double or Nothing, but Matt Hardy gave him the same props to Private Party and saying how they're the tag team, whatever, of AEW. And then he comes out and does this to Sammy Guevara. So, Eric, my question for you, is Matt Hardy recruiting a team or some sort? What is happening with this, do you think?
I don't think so. I think he's still working to eventually take down the Inner Circle. I think that's what he's going after. And one thing that they have not followed up on is the invite from Matt to the Hardy compound that he extended to Jericho, and then if Jericho didn't want to come, to Sammy. Is this where it's going to end up going? Is he start trying to sow some contention between Jericho and Sammy to kind of cause some strife inside the Inner Circle? Because they have been a solid unit ever since AEW started. So is this to try to get into Sammy's head or get into Jericho's head by talking to Sammy and breaking them up? Or is it going to go to, are we finally going to see a Hardy compound match with somebody from the Inner Circle?
Okay, so Matt Hardy trying to take down the Inner Circle from the Inner Circle taking down themselves. I can dig it. I like that.
One thing, a lot of people were really down on Matt changing characters here, and I was not. I actually thought this was the most realistic, grounded, or a most grounded way to do it, that there was no wardrobe change. He simply changed personalities, which I think is way more believable than any of the supernatural stuff that has been the broken universe in the past. And I think grounding it here with him clearly having some sort of multiple personality is a much better direction to go. But some people were really down on it when I was listening to various commentators talking about it today. What did you think about it?
Yeah, I was actually really surprised. So I liked it. I thought it was great, but it's kind of crazy for me. So people love it when he's off camera changing wardrobes and that, but they don't like it when you see him trying to take it to another level and do it right in front of you.
Well, I mean, some of the people were already down on Broken Matt in general, and this they just didn't like as well. But I thought this was a much more grounded presentation of Matt having the multiple personalities than anything that they've done so far with him changing clothing and whatnot. Here, there's no clothing change. There is simply a personality change. And that was it.
Yeah, and I really think the grounding is really important. And you're right, that is absolutely the best way to do it. I think, and I get it. For the record, I love Broken Matt. I love the Broken Universe. It's one of those things where you get it or you don't. You like it or you don't. If you don't like it, sure, I think maybe your decision may already be made up. But one of the things I think we have talked about was the importance of grounding it, much like Kris Statlander grounding the alien thing. And we all know the different universes. We know Matt and what he's trying to do and bring. And I think the changing of the demeanor right in your eye, changing the voice right in front of your eye, and just making not just that segment, but really try to pull you in to that character. And I thought that was the best way to do it. I agree with you 100%. I don't have a problem with it. I really do enjoy it. And like you said, this was something different with what he tried to do with it, and in terms of trying to ground it, than we have seen since he popped up in AEW. So I didn't have a problem with it.
Yeah, me neither. I'm hoping they continue down this road, and we either learn that, yes, he has split personality or multiple personalities, or he's doing it on purpose to mess with people. One of those two, hopefully we get one of those two answers eventually. I don't need it like right now or anytime soon. It could be 3 years from now for all I care, as long as something gets paid off in the end. And then they keep it grounded and stay away from any of the supernatural stuff. All right, so
agreed.
Next up, we have a video package, really short video package. It's shot in a narrative style. Joey Janela is shown. He's just drinking at the bar, and he voices over. He asks, what happened? He was wrestling Jon Moxley in the main event, and then he just faded into darkness. He says, sometimes I feel like the best moments in wrestling for me are behind me. And then in the background, they impose over a billboard that's off in the background the pile driver he took off the roof of a building into the back of the truck that took him out of action for like a year. It's a pretty famous Joey Janela spot. And then he says, somewhere the last 6 months, I kind of lost my direction. And then he's walking down the street, and Sonny Kiss drives up in a commercial, asks if Joey needs a ride. He says, sure. He gets in, and they drive off together, and it says, to be continued. So I'm curious where this storyline is going, because I don't have a clue. But maybe they're going to team them up, and there'll be another tag team in the division.
I guess so. So in the tag team division AEW, they're already so stacked. I don't really, because actually I had this very conversation with a friend of mine, and his concern was very much, are they going to oversaturate the tag team division if they keep throwing singles competitors together? I don't think that necessarily, especially with the talent that they have, and especially leading into the main event of the night. But one of the things okay, first of all, love the segment. The AEW video packages they do are really great, because you can definitely tell each talent, each wrestler, each personality, each one we've seen has its own vibe and its own feel. So if it was Joey Janela trying to drop in off a skateboard off of a ladder, it's not generic. He's literally at a bar feeling like he's just getting passed by, and he's thinking, is this it? Is this what Joey Janela has become? And it's actually great, because it puts in your head, oh shit, I didn't think about that. He's right. He's got a real valid point. And then I would lie to you if I said I expected Sonny Kiss to show up. I wasn't expecting Sonny Kiss to, oh, hey, Joey, let's hop in the car. And then the fact that it was TBC. Okay. I would like to see a lot more Sonny Kiss. I think he is a great talent. He is extremely athletic. Joey Janela he's Joey Janela. He's the bad boy. I'll be honest, this may be this episode of Dynamite was great. This, besides the Colt Cabana and the Dark Order thing, this immediately caught my attention, because again, it's something so out of left field. The fact that it's those two driving away together and it's to be continued. I'm really excited to see the next video package next week. I would really like to see where this goes.
Yeah, I'm curious who's doing the creative on this one. For some reason, I want to say that Janela and Sunny are actually really good friends in real life for some reason. I don't know why I want to say that. Like, was it in an interview or something? But anyways, since I've actually not talked to anybody, I haven't talked to you about this. I've voiced my opinion on it on the podcast before. But all right, so a lot of people are down on promos having the narrative structure, as in it's a hidden. It's basically a shot like a TV show or a movie or whatever, that the camera isn't in existence to the persons on screen. Very much like Lucha Underground, how they had all the, the cinematic promos, or whatever you want to call them, video parts. Right. And I think what I've said in the past, let me see if you track on this too. If they want to do narrative video that only the audience is privy to, the key thing that has to be done, which they did horribly when the Dark Order did it, was that the announcers need to not ever acknowledge anything that happened in those videos. And it should be played off as only the audience at home saw this, and the announcers are completely oblivious to what happened in them.
Yeah, actually, that is really true. I like that a lot, because what tends to happen when you get the chance for an announcer or a commentator to really address that, it takes away what your takeaway is from that narrative. If they are completely in the dark and it's delivered to you in the way it was intended to be delivered, you have the option to take or give into it what you want to. There's no outside interference. I agree with that 100%.
Exactly. And then the commentators don't interject something into matches that they shouldn't have knowledge about. This is one of the things I really liked about Lucha Underground. I don't know if you watched Lucha Underground when it was on, did you?
Here and there. If I called it, I'd watch it.
Right. So basically, Vampiro and Matt Stryker had absolutely no knowledge of anything that happened outside of the arena. So if it happened in the office or was filmed on a different day or anything like that, they had no idea what was going on. They only called the matches that they saw in front of them and anything that happened in front of them. If they didn't see it happen in the ring or anything like that, they never mentioned it, because they had no knowledge of it. Because why would they? Because that was just shown to the audience and the audience alone. Same with the people who are actually in the audience. They never saw any of the backstage stuff. They didn't show them any of the video packages or any of the, I don't even know what you want, cinematic packages that were filmed, because they wanted them to react to what was going on in front of them, not with the extra knowledge that they have in their head about what these characters are actually doing week to week. Obviously, you can't do that with the audience, but you can do it with the commentators. And I think that was a huge miss when there's all the Dark Order videos. They had, the ceremony out in the woods. They had the original video package where the guy was on the subway. And then they had, what was another one that happened? There was another big one. The spokesman guy was addressing the Exalted One before we know who it was, talking about their recruiting efforts and whatnot, trying to get Nakazawa. And then they're like, well, if we get Nakazawa, then we can get Omega. It's like, this is information that shouldn't be available to the commentators or wrestlers. They need to play it off as if they have no idea about this, because then it leaves the audience with, oh, they're trying to recruit Kenny Omega. Well, now you just told Kenny Omega that they're trying to recruit him, and now you've already played your hand. Whereas if they completely ignore it, the wrestlers completely ignore it as well, then you can have that little tidbit of information that is only for the audience to know, so they're fully engaged in the story. And then they can be like, no, Kenny, don't. No, they're trying to screw with you type of deal, instead of Kenny already knows it.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's like if you see Kenny, like, the Dark Order comes out and give it. I don't need someone. Oh, I don't need a face announcer. Oh, he better not do it. Don't do it. Kenny got a heel. Do it, Kenny. No, I'm not that dumb.
Right.
I like being presented with something and being able to take away something on my own opinion. So yeah, I agree 100% with that statement. That's really insightful. I really like that.
And having the audience know stuff so they can get it's just like a movie. Like the main character, you know that the bad guy is doing something because you've seen them do it, but the main character doesn't know. So you're like, how is the main character going to figure out that so-and-so did such and such, you know? So that's something that can definitely draw in the audience more to the story. And that would be the same way. The commentators don't know. So now you're trying to figure out, well, how the commentator is going to find out, or how is the wrestler going to find out X, Y, Z. So there's that. All right. So, man, that was long. There's a quick video segment after this going into what we were talking about. I believe it was Dasha trying to track down Colt Cabana, and she finds him, but he's outside Brodie Lee's door. He knocks on the door. They let him in, and he walks in, and that was it. So Colt Cabana is seeking... Oh, crap. I had the word, and now I can't. Wisdom? That wasn't even the word I was looking for.
It works. It fits.
Yeah, it was seeking guidance. Guidance is probably a little better. Guidance from Brodie Lee. So we will see how this goes. Is Colt actually going to turn to the Dark Order? We talked about last week. You were on me with last week. Yeah, last week that, man, the Dark Order is really bad at recruiting people because they've had no success in recruiting anybody who's already established. They've only brought in people who are complete jobbers, or they were brought into AEW via the Dark Order. So Colt would be the first person, if he decides to join the Dark Order, that is of any namesake getting recruited by them.
Yeah, well, you already know how I'm a big F yes. I hope anyone is entitled to their opinion, and that's great. I get why you wouldn't want it, but I want it so bad. I do. I want it.
I have changed my mind over the course of the week, and I am with you on this. I think it'd be fun. All right. Then they just go over the matches that are lined up for the next week. We have Billy Gunn versus MJF. We have Natural Nightmares for the tag titles against Omega and Hangman Page. The TNT title will be defended once again. We have Les Sex Gods versus Best Friends with the title shot at Fyter Fest on the line. And then we also have Young Bucks versus Superbad Death Squad, which is Kip Sabian and Jimmy Havoc. So they now have a team name. All right. So next up, we have Alex Marvez tries to get a word with Moxley. There's a little parking lot right off the edge of the stage, basically. I'm guessing that's where they park their cars to move equipment and all that fun stuff. And he gets to Moxley, and Moxley says he's in a real bad mood, not just because his back hurts and it hurts to sit on the toilet, because did you see the picture of his bruised tailbone?
No, I did not.
Oh, it is horrible. He's got like this giant black and blue on his tailbone. It's pretty bad.
I'm looking it up right now so I can look at it. Continue with your analysis, Eric.
So he says that he's not in a bad mood just because of that. It's because he has no patience for people who run their mouths, who have no idea what they're talking about. He says all week Taz has been telling anybody that would listen that Brian Cage is going to beat him at Fyter Fest. He says that if Taz is trying to get under his skin, it worked, because I cannot wait for Fyter Fest. I can't wait to, I believe he said, which I didn't write it down, but now I'm remembering it. He's going to pop Brian Cage's head like a pimple. I think that's what he said. He says what separates him from the rest of the pack is he's one miserable son of a bitch, and the fact that Cage thinks he can beat him pisses him off. Taz thinking that Brian Cage can beat him pisses him off. Anyone in the world thinking that they can beat him pisses him off. It's what drives him, what makes him train harder, hit harder, be less apologetic, makes him more violent. And then he says that Taz is one of the greatest trash talkers of all time. And then Taz, you can hear him yelling off camera, and he comes in and confronts Moxley. Says that I was sitting in my trailer and I could hear you chirping, just chirp, 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 chirping. He says you got to get yourself right, get your head right, because at Fyter Fest you're going to be put down and Brian Cage attacks from behind. He throws Moxley into a barricade. Moxley grabs a pipe off the ground and swings it at Brian Cage, but misses, and it goes through a car window. Moxley ends up getting slammed into like a concrete wall, and then he gets a body slam on the hood of said car, and then Brian Cage looks like he's going to lift him up to do a power bomb or something on the concrete, and Taz steps in and tells him, no, don't do it here, don't do it here. And Cage just picks up Moxley and throws him into the rear window of the car, and it smashes. Taz and Brian Cage makes their exit while Moxley is laid out on the back of the car with the smashed window. I don't know whose car that is, but it did not see a great day. Has a couple broken windows and a couple dents, mostly from Jon Moxley's body.
Dude, if that was my rental, I'd be pissed. Okay, like they destroyed that thing. All right, so two things. One, I just looked at that tailbone picture. Whew, that is quite a bruised tailbone. Second, I liked it. So there were a lot of people who, when I was reading into this, they didn't really necessarily like that Taz was front and center when he was cutting promos on Moxley. They didn't like how he's out front talking about how big and bad Brian Cage is, and then Brian Cage is just in the background. Well, in this circumstance, you get Jon Moxley calling out Taz. Taz says, all right, okay. And then Brian Cage comes behind and just shows why Brian Cage doesn't have to be out front and centered. He is an absolute monster. And what I like a lot about this segment in particular is you don't need to see the AEW World Champion in action in every week. You don't need to see the challenger of Brian Cage in action every single week to prove how big and bad he is. If you have a set of eyes, you know how big and bad he is. And if you don't, just listen to Taz. He'll tell you how big and bad he is. What I like about this in particular was it set up an AEW World Championship match, and it sets it up. If we keep seeing stuff like this every week, it just adds fuel to the fire. And then you see fuel to the fire, and then you keep adding some more gas, and then you add some wood, and then you just we're at the ground floor of something that I believe could be really great. I'll be completely honest, I was really, really hoping that the Brodie Lee Jon Moxley angle would run a little bit longer than it did. I wish it would have gone a few more months, but AEW booking, again, does a really great job. People want to see Brodie Lee. Okay, we'll give him Brodie Lee, we'll put him in this, and we'll catch people's attention. We'll put Brian Cage in this segment, and we'll have we have A's all across the board. We're building towards something really great here, and every week I feel like it's going to be a step up, a step up, a step up. And I'm expecting a really huge main event when these two finally get in the ring one-on-one. So I thought this segment was great. I thought it was well placed perfectly in the show. I thought it set the tone for the rivalry. And I'd like any stance where you see the AEW world head Jon Moxley is left in a windshield in a parking lot. So that just kind of sets up something really badass that I think they're doing a really great job on trying to capitalize on.
Yeah, and I like Taz stopping him from doing whatever he was going to do on the concrete, because you have that little thing of, well, we softened him up, but you didn't hurt him bad enough that he won't be able to compete. Because if you injure him, then he's not going to be able to compete for the title, and that's a bad thing. But if we could soften him up a little bit, and you just don't want to. You just don't want to injure him. You just want to soften him up a little bit. So it was good there. And I think, yeah, Brian Cage showed why Taz can speak for him, and he'll just sit back and destroy people and let Taz fill in what needs to be filled in. And I haven't seen that as being a problem anyways, because Brian Cage is huge. It's not like the it's not like, say, Jake the Snake, if he was the mouthpiece of somebody who's shorter, I guess, somebody like a Marty Skrull, who Jake would just tower over him. This way, actually, Taz, he's actually a really short guy, so Brian Cage looks huge next to him, even though, Taz isn't a small guy. But I think it works here because Brian Cage is just so big, and Taz can be front and center. He can talk all of his trash, and he knows that Brian Cage is there to back. Very similar to MJF having Wardlow behind him, even though MJF is actually talking on his own behalf. He has Wardlow behind him to back him up, and Wardlow can just stay there silent, even though MJF can fight mostly his own fights as well. So I think the dynamic works out just fine. Next up, we have a quick promo package between Cody and Marq Quen going into the TNT Championship match. This match I thought was really good. Marq Quen did a really good job, even though he is pretty green. There wasn't a huge show of that. Actually, Matt Hardy came out with Quen and Cassidy to escort Quen to the ring, and then both Cassidy and Hardy left. So they're basically they left their guy to do his thing. Cody and Marq Quen actually shake hands before the start. They get to a quick test of strength right off the bat, and then go into a forearm striking exchange. Marq Quen hits this really nice standing moonsault, but only gets a 2 count. There was one point here where he actually drops Cody, and Cody was face down, and it was a nice little touch. He actually, with his foot, rolled Cody over before hitting the moonsault. I thought that was a nice little touch. Marq Quen hits this beautiful drop kick. He takes Cody out of midair when Cody was going to go for the disaster kick. And then they actually clarify the defense rules of the TNT Championship. Tony says, well, this match was TV time remaining because there was only about 17 minutes left in the show. Tony said that the TNT title matches will be a 20-minute time limit compared to the 60-minute for all the other titles. So this could be interesting, especially if you're doing every week Cody is doing a title match. We could see some time limit draws here coming up. That way you can keep the challenger strong as well without getting the title off of Cody. So I'm thinking that might come into play when we get down the line to possibly MJF facing Cody, because MJF is going to have to face go for a title at some point, considering that he's undefeated and he's ranked number 1. So that's got to happen at some point. Anyways, 20-minute time limit on the TNT Championship. Good to hear here. Cody starts working over Marq Quen's knee when Marq Quen lands awkwardly, this playing up to Marq hurting his knee a couple weeks ago. Quen goes up for a springboard, but his knee just gives out and he flops into the ring, and Cody continues to hammer on the leg. Cody's actually really aggressive at this point, and he's almost fighting like a heel. He actually does after hitting a move, he does a flex to the camera, showing off a little bit egotistically, I guess. And Cody hits a reverse suplex onto Quen. Quen lands right on his knee. He manages to do another standing moonsault here. And then Quen hits this amazing corkscrew DDT. I have never seen that happen before, and I don't know how you even managed to do it. I watched it multiple times to see how they work together to even get this to work, and they managed to do it. Quen hits a flip over dive twice off to the floor, but his knee has been taking so much punishment at this time. He can barely run the ropes. He's limping all the way. He ends up hitting a third one. Quen goes up to the top rope while Cody is laid out in the middle of the ring. Cody rolls under the bottom rope to the stage, and Quen's like, all right, fine. He just adjusts. He hits a 450 splash right on the stage, comes up selling his knee even more, but his downfall ends up going that Marq Quen goes for a shooting star press onto Cody. Cody moves out of the way, catches him immediately, puts on an ankle lock, and Quen is forced to tap out. After the match, he helps Marq Quen up. He gives him a big hug, and then Jake Hager makes his way out onto the stage. He slowly walks down to the ring, and he starts choking Arn Anderson, and then beats on Cody, hits him with this massive spine buster, and then we have Isaiah Cassidy, Marq, and Matt Hardy come out to make the save. They hit Hager with a bunch of chair shots. Hardy hits a clothesline to send him over the top rope. Then we get the rest of the inner circle coming down besides Jericho. They come down. There's a huge brawl. Sammy gets hit with a twist of fate, which his selling of the twist of fate is always awesome near the end of the brawl. And then we kind of have a split apart. Cody grabs the mic and says, "Jake, I know what you're asking for. You want a TNT title shot, don't you? Well, at Fyter Fest, you got it." And that was the end of the show. What did you think about the match? And then we'll talk about what happened after. Uh-oh. Did I lose you? I might have lost him. All right, so while he comes back, like I said, I thought this match was a really solid match. Quen did a really good job at selling his leg here, and oh, there you are.
Yeah, I guess if my laptop shuts off, I don't know. All right. Anyway, so okay, sorry. So one of these days, we are going to get through an entire show without something on either one of our ends. I promise you. Okay, so here we go. The match. Okay, so Quen as a tag team in Private Party is great. I wasn't expecting what I would see in Quen, the singles competitor. Him and Cody had really great chemistry. I wasn't really expecting that. I was just expecting not necessarily the same outcome that I had with like Jungle Boy, but Quen did 3 dives over the top rope, a 450 onto the ramp, a shooting star press off the top. That corkscrew DDT, I have never seen anything like that. And I know you said that you rewound it a bunch of times. Well, not only did I try to rewind it a bunch of times, but I also tried to practice that on my wife's body pillow that she has, that she got when she was pregnant with our daughter. And I kept watching it, rewinding it, pausing, and I just kept wrapping the pillow around my neck. And I've never seen a counter like that. I thought that was really great and intuitive. This was great. I wasn't expecting this match. So before I get into the afterwards, the match itself, what I like about the TNT Open Challenge for the championship, I think this cements Cody a lot because he defeated Lance Archer to take it. The match with Jungle Boy was a lot more physical than I thought it was going to be. And this match with Quen was also, it was different. Quen is different from Jungle Boy, who's also different from Lance Archer. So you cement and establish a champion who has fought through 3 different competitors with 3 different styles, and it was the same outcome. So with the term of that, I really enjoy this TNT Open Challenge because you get to see other guys like Quen really kind of step out of and shine on their own. Then everything broke loose. So Matt, Cody, Private Party, Inner Circle, all in the same ring together. They beat the crap out of each other.
They throw oranges at each other.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, if they bought like 6 dozen of them and they didn't use them all, so might as well get your money's worth. And then, so we get Cody versus Hager at Fyter Fest. So again, Matt Hardy he's just coming out with Private Party, and I was, again, something else. I wasn't expecting all this cluster. I thought it was going to be like last week. We're going to see fireworks, and that's the sign-off. But we're still setting up matches out of nowhere. And then the fact that it's an open challenge, Hager challenging makes perfect sense. But since we've seen the Inner Circle, and considering what's happened the last couple weeks, are we setting up the Inner Circle to just reign? Are they going to be back to greatness? Are they going to be back up top? Not that they're at the bottom, but again, I don't know if it's me looking into it too much, but there's just a lot of different possible scenarios and outcomes that you can get from this, and I really liked how this ends because again, it leaves you with that one question: do you want to see it more? And yes, but I just, like everything else throughout this entire night, I just want to know what's going to happen next.
Yeah, but even that, it could be even heading in the opposite direction. It could be heading to a inner circle implosion for all we know at this point.
And that's what I like. I like being kept on my toes because you have Matt Hardy planting the seed, and then you have and a Sammy Guevara. Oh, don't trust Chris Jericho, and you just have so many things happening. I don't think it's too much. I think it's just the right amount of chaos to make it seem normal. So I'm in. I don't really walk away a whole lot. I don't walk away that often from things and go, yeah, I wish they could have done more. I wish this would have been better. Throughout this entire show, they've set up Fyter Fest and beyond, and they set up for next week. They set up for Fyter Fest. They're really thinking long term here, and I am just as eager as anyone else. I really want to see where it goes.
Yeah, I mean, that is one thing that I love about AEW. Every week, they set you up for next week. Like, you don't turn on the show not knowing at least 3 matches that are going to be on the show. Most of the time, you know every match that is going to be on the show. And I think they've already, this week, set up all 5 matches for next week. Most likely, there's only going to be 5. If there's a 6th, that will be the surprise. But we already have Billy Gunn versus MJF. We have Natural Nightmares in a tag title match against Omega and a Hangman. We have a TNT title match again. Cody's going to be defending against a mystery opponent. Will it be announced before the show starts, or are we going to get an actual surprise? Who knows? We have Les Sex Gods against Best Friends, and we have Super Bad Death Squad against the Young Bucks. So we have 5 matches announced before the end of the show even happened for next week, and that is something that I love about AEW, that I know, all right, we got 7 days to see what's going to happen. And I think this even helps, at least for me, since I'm following this probably closer than the normal casual fan, but having this already set up for me at the end of Dynamite makes me watch their social media a little bit more. Okay, I know there's going to be a TNT title match next week. Are they going to announce who it's going to be ahead of time? Or are we going to find out? So it's like I'm checking social media. I'm like, now I want to know who's going to be facing Cody for the TNT Championship next week, and now I want to find out.
Yeah, I turn into such a mark. Like I'm like, oh, okay. If you turn into other things, you're like, oh, okay, cool. So this is going on tonight. Literally, they set everything up for next week, so you're already kind of expecting a bit of a fight. You know what I mean? Like they already have these implications set in place, and it just gets you excited. And then this is a stacked card for next week. This is for an episode of Dynamite, and and we already have storylines. We have implications set. We have so many things happening, and I'm excited. Like I don't know how else to describe this. Their booking is just so great because it doesn't have you with AEW. With I think the best thing they're doing is the 4 pay-per-views a year, because this is the exact reason why it's such a good thing. You don't have to build it up for every single month. You don't have to start and abandon storylines. You can start and go where you want to go. There's no pressure. There's no, all right, get 3 weeks. The pay-per-view's over. We're thinking next one. No. Every episode of Dynamite is another chapter in the book of AEW that leads to the pay-per-view. And I think that's why, just like you and I, because we talked before I even co-hosted, that's just one of the things that I love about professional wrestling. It's this spark that not a whole lot of people, and I'm not going to bring another promotion because we don't talk about other promotions. We talk about AEW. It's something that AEW has captivated since Allin the first time around and Double or Nothing 3 weeks ago. It's just, you have that spectacle, you have that wow, and they just believe in what they're putting out there for you to watch, and they do it on a weekly basis. And it's just it really gets you excited, and it's one of the things that are pulling people back into the sport of professional wrestling and their love for it. It's just things like this, knowing that they can do whatever they want. And the fact that they're doing it every step of the way, keeping you guessing, is a beautiful thing.
Yeah, as somebody mentioned in the chat, continuity. Continuity is so huge in AEW. Yes, they've had to abandon some storylines here or there, but for the most part, we get these payoffs. These storylines run to their natural conclusion that they were, planned for, and but they manage to maintain continuity when they have to pivot as well. Case in point, with Hangman, everybody thought that he was going to go heel, and he was going to go heel on the Elite. But then he gets major over with his, drinking and whatnot. And they're like, all right, never mind. We're not going to go down that route. But they maintained the continuity because they managed to ride that line until they know, to solidify, they played it enough gray that they could turn to either direction once they could take the temperature of the crowd, basically, to figure out what was going on. So that's one thing I really appreciate about AEW. Again, I think Double or Nothing, this past one, was really the shortest build they had with matches. But for the most part, we usually know what the title match is going to be many weeks out. I mean, we already know we knew what the Fyter Fest AEW title match was going to be 3 weeks ago, and we're still 3 weeks out. So we have a 6 month span of knowing what this match is going to happen, and multiple times we have them announcing in 2 weeks on Dynamite, blah blah blah, in 3 weeks on Dynamite, blah blah blah. So obviously we had the COVID issue, but they had announced Blood and Guts 4 weeks out, and we have all these things that they try to. Obviously, those plans had to be abandoned, but that's completely understandable given the climate that we're in right now. But they try as hard as they can to maintain the continuity, and if they say this is going to happen, then they try to make every effort to make sure it does happen and it makes sense to get there.
Yeah, and it's also really great that they're doing it without a crowd. As someone that cuts promos and does this and that for a wrestling promotion and works towards that, you do it for the reaction. And a lot of the times when you get those yays or the nays, if you're going for a yay and you get a boo, you're going to get stuck in your own head. And what they've been able to do is they're not getting, they have some production staff and other wrestlers in the crowd, but they're out there without a crowd reaction, and they're still they're putting something out there for you to take whatever you want away from it. They're putting something out there for you to do it. And when you're doing it without a crowd reaction, you kind of get to see them doing it because they think it's cool or because they want to do it. And when you kind of get that fun playfulness and what they're trying to put out there, you read off that, and it just makes you really appreciate, especially, we're slowly getting back to it. We are slowly getting back to eventually being able to have a crowd, and eventually I just want to see that blood and guts that we were promised. But they're doing a lot with a little, and they're killing it right now, man.
Yeah, I'm curious what type of research they do to feel out the pulse of the audience when the audience isn't there, because normally they would have the immediate feedback whether something is working or not, and here they're going to have a delay. Are they monitoring podcasts? Are they monitoring all these reviews? Are they monitoring any type of feedback that is coming in to try to gauge, well, if they had a crowd, this probably would have happened in the crowd, so we're going to continue this way, or we're going to pivot a little bit because that did not go over well with X, Y, and Z or with everybody online? Or they pay attention to that type of feedback, and how are they getting that feedback? I'm curious to know. I'm not sure we'll find out anytime soon what exactly they're doing, but of course we know people like of course, Dave Meltzer and Brian Alvarez, they are probably in contact with the Young Bucks a couple times every other week or so. So, so they're probably giving some feedback, and I wouldn't be surprised if people are contacting any of the other large reporters to kind of feel out, well, what are they hearing, and kind of addressing it that way, just to see what they're doing, because they need at least the feedback. I'm just curious how they're getting it.
However they're getting it, man, they're killing it. They're nailing it completely. So good for them.
Yeah. All right. So that is the end of the show. Do you have anything else to talk about from this episode?
Whew, no, not a single thing. This was a really solid episode. It's segueing into next week and beyond. It was a good show. We're slowly coming back to being able to do it in front of a live crowd because I'm missing to be there as well, man. So we're slowly starting to return to normality. We're still here in this pandemic, and we're making it work. So yeah, it's a great day to be a wrestling fan, man. Great day.
Yeah, New Japan is probably going to beat everybody. They've announced that they're going to have a 1/3 capacity for Dominion. Not Dominion. Yeah, Dominion and the finals of the New Japan Cup on July 11th and 12th. About 4,000 people, and the steps that they're taking a massive amount of steps. Everybody who comes in, their arrival time is recorded, their temperature is taken, everybody has to wear masks, they have to have all of their contact info, so like their address and all that stuff, where they're coming from, they have to sign out, so they're recording departure times and all that stuff, so and they're going to have hand sanitizer everywhere. So basically, as you come in, they're spraying you with hand sanitizer, and as you leave, they're spraying you with hand sanitizer. They actually released an entire huge policy if you're interested in going to read it, but they're going to take every precaution and that's a big, they're going to be like the first big thing if nobody else jumps ahead of them. But July 11th and 12th, they're looking at roughly 4,000 people in a 12,000 seat venue. So we will see how that goes. It is Japan, so you're probably not going to have a ton of pushback because the culture is obviously a lot different, and they're going to be like, well, those are the rules to get in, so I'm going to follow the rules to get in, and you're not going to have them. Bunch of people being all pissed off about it, so it's probably the best place to do it. But of course, then we need to watch. Really, I think people watching Japan is probably the best testing grounds because one, it's an island, so nobody's going in and out without being monitored, and they have strict quarantine protocols and all that fun stuff. But then they just have a bit more of a cohesive culture there. So if it fails in Japan, it's going to fail here horribly. So I guess that is where we need to keep our eye on and see how those shows go. So other than that, I don't have anything. So why don't you give out any plugs that you'd like to throw out there?
All right, it's the same plug I'm always going to plug, and I'll plug it till the day I die. We are slowly getting back to being able to literally go anywhere and do anything. And for all you wrestling fans out there, always support local and independent wrestling. With that being said, if you live in South Central Pennsylvania, you may know me as DC Rivers for Pro Warrior Alliance. If you want to support small local independent wrestling, follow us, like us on Facebook at facebook.com/Pro Warrior Alliance. Support local wrestling, support independent wrestling, because pretty soon, man, I'm going to be at every single show locally, venue, big that I possibly can. So facebook.com/Pro Warrior Alliance. Thank you so much.
All right, and if you would like to send any questions into the mailbag, you shoot an email to eric@thatswrestling.com. You can also join our Discord. The link should be in the description of both the podcast and the video. Also, head over to iTunes. Give us a review. It really helps us out. Share the content around if you like it, and join and follow the YouTube channel. I have been doing almost daily news wires, just a quick 5 to 10 minute video giving any news updates regarding AEW or New Japan. I stay away from the other big promotion that we ignore, so it is just AEW and New Japan centric. Once in a while, a independent one around, if somebody has some big news. So definitely go check that out over on YouTube, the That's Wrestling YouTube channel. The link is also in the description if you are listening to this as a podcast. So thanks for joining us. My name is Eric LaRoche, and we will see you next time on That's Wrestling. See you later, guys.